I am a 27-year-old woman, and I have been married to my husband, a 29-year-old man, for a little over 2 years. We have a 15-month-old daughter, and we're hoping for baby number 2. My husband is amazing. I just feel so loved and at peace with him. A few months ago, my husband told me that a female coworker had been hitting on him and asking to hang out and grab lunch sometime, and he had turned her down. She knew he was married and had a toddler, but tried her luck anyway. I had basically forgotten about it until I met her at one of my husband's work events, and she tried to belittle me and made a few personal attacks as jokes. My husband offered to report her to his company's human resources when this happened, and I told him not to. I trusted him, but expected that he would only interact with her for work purposes. This week, my husband was on a work trip, and that coworker was also there. He told me beforehand, and I just made him promise that he wouldn't hang out with her alone or go to a bar if she was around. I made it clear to him that I love and trust him more than anything, but I don't trust anyone else, especially his coworker. And he promised. Call it intuition or whatever, but on his last night there, after he called me and we talked for a while, and he said he was going to dinner at a specific restaurant, I checked his location, and it said he wasn't there and was at some local bar instead. He was there for an hour before going back to the hotel, and immediately I thought the worst. I called him when he was back at the hotel, and he said dinner plans changed, and they went to a different restaurant. I told him I knew he was lying, and this was his last chance to admit the truth. He was adamant that he was telling the truth, and I was so sure there was something suspicious going on that I accused him of cheating and said something completely unrelated about something in his past to hurt him. He told me that the restaurant they went to had a bar right on top of it, so that's why his location showed at the bar. I told him that I'm still insecure about that coworker, and I apologized for not trusting him, for talking it out, and for what I said. He didn't really react much and said he had to sleep, and that was it. I thought it was okay, but when I called before he got on his flight back, he seemed disinterested in talking to me, and when he got home, he was indifferent to me. No bear hug, no passionate kiss, not even a smile. He just picked up our daughter, played with her for a little while until we put her to sleep, and when I tried to talk to him, he just said there was no point in talking. He's been pretty much ignoring me ever since he got back, and I really messed up by accusing him when he did everything right and for what I said. Truly, I didn't mean for this to happen, and I was so convinced something was wrong. Otherwise, I never would have reacted like this. How can I fix this? There's nothing anyone can say that I haven't already said to myself. I know I made a terrible mistake, and I just want to make things right for my husband. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You sound like a controlling person. What you did is not okay. Monitoring his location, asking where he is, and then calling him a liar. To also attack him verbally just so you could hurt him? Hurting someone on purpose, either physically or verbally, usually shows you've lost control, but to use something from their past also shows you knew exactly what you were doing. You know how hard men find it to be vulnerable? We're expected to be tough, to try to carry the weight of the world without faltering, so our families don't have to. It takes a lot to show what's underneath, and maybe, just maybe, you've caused your husband to vow never to share his most vulnerable self again. You're dangerous, and just as bad as any woman creeping around. These are your actions, and any consequences for your marriage are yours too. All I can say is you need to get help, as in therapy, if you have a habit of pulling stunts like that. Comment 2. So you controlled him by checking his location, which shows you don't trust him, accusing him of cheating, and then willfully hurting him. You have made this relationship toxic for your husband, and although he seems like too good of a guy to cheat, many partners would think they might as well do that with a wife like this. Others might think that the wife is cheating, since that is a common action of cheaters to act like you did. You have a lot of work to do to fix this, and it will not be a quick fix. He will probably soon look like he is back to normal, but trust me that what you said and done is still a big scar in his heart, and that will not go away. You first of all must acknowledge and take responsibility for what you did to him by saying how at fault you were for what you said and did, and then come up with a solution for how you can assure him it will not happen again. Now for the update. It's been just over a month since I last posted about the issues with my husband. I thought things would have gotten better by now, but nope. After he came home from that work trip, he was still acting distant, like not even trying to hide it. I figured he just needed some space, so I tried not to push him. He'd come around eventually, right? Wrong. We were both so busy with work and our daughter that we weren't talking much. We were basically just roommates. A week later, my daughter had a birthday party coming up, and I wanted everything to be perfect. It was her second birthday, so I planned a small party at our home, inviting family and a couple of close friends. Nothing big, just a cute little thing for our daughter. I asked my husband to help with the decorations, hoping it would bring us closer. We used to do stuff like that together all the time. While we set up, I noticed he was distracted, staring at his phone, like not even pretending to help. I confronted him about it, and he brushed it off, saying he was just busy with work. I was like, cool, but you're literally off today, so I don't know why you're working on your day off. The day of the party arrived, and it felt so awkward with my husband barely engaging with the guests. He was there, but not really. My parents and sister arrived, bringing gifts for our daughter. My sister, who was a bit tipsy, started joking about how my husband seemed off. I kind of laughed it off, but inside I was cringing because I knew what she was getting at. During the party, my husband excused himself, saying he needed to take a work call. I overheard him talking quietly in another room, mentioning the coworker's name. I tried to ignore it, but I just couldn't. After the guests left, I asked him about the call. He said it was just business and seemed annoyed that I asked, like, sorry for trying to care about your life. I pushed, asking if the coworker was still trying to get close to him. He snapped back, saying I was being paranoid and making a big deal out of nothing. I was like, okay, fine, I'll just drop it. A few days later, I received a package at our door with my name on it. Inside was a gift from the coworker addressed to my husband with a note saying, "Wish you were here." I showed it to my husband and he got defensive, insisting it was just a friendly gesture. I was like, what kind of friend sends a gift to someone else's spouse? I decided to take matters into my own hands. I came up with a plan to confront the coworker directly. I learned from my husband that she was having a work event downtown this weekend. I decided to attend the event, pretending to be just another guest. When I arrived, I spotted her mingling with colleagues, laughing and enjoying herself. I introduced myself as my husband's wife, keeping a smile on my face. She looked shocked and tried to play it off, saying she heard a lot about me. I casually mentioned the gift she sent, and her face fell. She stammered, claiming it was meant to be harmless and that she didn't mean any offense. I told her that I appreciated her concern for my husband, but reminded her he was happily married. The tension was obvious, and I could see her backtracking. When I got home, I shared everything with my husband. His expression changed from anger to realization as he understood what I faced. We had a long talk, and he promised to keep boundaries with coworkers moving forward. The next morning, he texted me the coworker's number and told me to block her. Possible future update. If anything crazy happens, I'll make sure to update. A day after blocking the coworker, my husband and I were doing better, but he seemed on edge. That evening, he got a call from his boss about some emergency at work. He left the house in a hurry, and I figured it was just some work drama. But when he got home late, he seemed even more tense. Later, I noticed my daughter's daycare called multiple times while he was on the phone with his boss. I just have this bad feeling about it all, like maybe his boss is trying to set him up with someone else. I'm really hoping I'm just being paranoid again, but I feel like something's off. Edit. It's been a few days since that event, and things have been a bit rocky. My husband did have a conversation with his boss about the calls from the daycare, and it turns out they were just checking in on our daughter since she had a mild fever earlier that week. Thankfully, she's doing fine now. However, my husband's boss also mentioned seeing me at the event and asked if I was interested in a marketing position at his company. He said he'd put in a good word for me if I was. Am I the idiot for asking my girlfriend to show basic respect for my passions and emotions? I am a 31-year-old woman, and I have been with my girlfriend, who is a 33-year-old woman, for 2 years now. What drew us to each other was our shared love for music, creativity, and intimacy attraction. But personality-wise, we are very different. She is a very expressive person who always speaks her mind and gets mad, frustrated, and angry very easily. I, on the other hand, am a very sensitive person who rarely ever has access to anger. My more common reactions are anxiety and depression. I have been in therapy for years now, and I am getting better at setting boundaries and communicating my needs. My girlfriend isn't always supportive of my therapy. She doesn't understand why it's important for me to get to the root of my problems. She once said, "You always come home with another trauma." She is very much the person who avoids any feelings of sadness and resorts to anger right away. This also results in her not being able to comfort me in the way I need sometimes because she feels like she has to protect herself from the sadness. In general, we have this dynamic where I need closeness when I'm upset, and she needs space, so we trigger each other. Through therapy, I learned how to give her more space, but I don't see her improving on giving me reassurance. She has a hard time putting her frustration with me aside in these moments. I started a new musical hobby that she doesn't like, and that's what has been causing a lot of arguments between us. She said she doesn't have respect for this form of creativity and said she can't relate to me anymore because she would never do it. So, I suggested we talk about the other ways we relate and connect. If maybe there is something else wrong, why she doesn't connect with me, or if we have to find something else or bring back something we can bond over. She refused to talk about that because she always feels like I bring up things that have nothing to do with the issue, and I dogpile on her. I just said I wanted to look at our relationship and also focus on the good things that we maybe lost sight of. She said that sounds like a precursor to a breakup. To me, it just sounds like she wants to avoid looking at the root of things, just like she doesn't like it when I do it in therapy. The arguments have really affected me. It really triggers me when she gets so angry. I asked if it would be possible to treat each other more kindly and if she could use a soft filter on me. She said she doesn't owe anyone anything, and I have to accept her as she is. I'm not asking her to change her personality or emotions. I was just asking for a change in behavior and how she acts on her emotions. It hurts me that she doesn't see my pain and is not open to taking steps towards me. I said I want to work on things together, and she said it's an expression of my inability to give her space to work on things by herself. I said I am going to try to give her more space, but I also think there are things we have to talk about. She said, we are talking things to death, and talking about it doesn't fix any hurt feelings. Only time and space do. I don't know what to do anymore. After this, I know she would never be open to couples therapy or anything like that. But I don't think I can just move forward with these unresolved things between us and just not talk about them. Any thoughts and advice would be much appreciated. Now for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now, for the update. A few days after the last argument, I went to this local open mic night to show off my new musical hobby because, I just thought it'd be a nice way to chill out. I invited my girlfriend, but she was like, "No idiots here. It sounds boring. I'm not coming." Kinda hurt my feelings, but whatever. So I went, performed a song I wrote, and honestly, I was feeling pretty proud and hopeful. But then, right in the middle of my performance, I saw her at the back of the room with a bunch of her friends, laughing, drinking, having a good time while I was up there pouring my heart out. After the show, she came up to me, clearly drunk, with her friends trailing behind her like a bunch of lost puppies. One of her friends made this sarcastic comment about my performance, and it was just so awkward. It ended the life of the vibe, but my girlfriend just laughed. Like, what? I stood there, feeling so unsupported, and I had to say something. I confronted her about it, and she just snapped back, saying she didn't ask to be there. Then, of course, the argument escalated, her calling me overly sensitive and dramatic. So, I just left the venue, feeling defeated, and she stayed behind to socialize with her friends like everything was fine. The next day, I get this text from her saying she didn't want to talk about it and needed space. So, I decided to visit my parents for the weekend to clear my head. During dinner at my parents' house, my dad asked how things were going with my girlfriend. I kind of froze for a second, not really knowing what to say. I shared the recent conflict, leaving out the specifics because I didn't want to burden my family, you know? My mom listened carefully, nodding and giving me the occasional advice about communication. It was nice to have someone listen. My younger sister chimed in, suggesting that maybe my girlfriend just didn't respect my passion. It was a good point, and it stung a little. While I was there, I got a text from my girlfriend saying she was going out with friends again and wouldn't be home. I just felt so alone. A few days later, I attended a family gathering for my brother's birthday, and the tension from everything was just lingering in my mind. During cake time, my brother joked about how happy he was to be married and how he couldn't wait for kids. That hit hard. And then out of nowhere, my girlfriend showed up. She looked so agitated and distant. Our conversation was so strained, with her avoiding eye contact and just responding with short replies. My mom noticed the tension and asked if everything was okay with us. My girlfriend snapped, saying it was none of anyone's business. It shocked everyone at the table, including me. After the party, she stormed out, leaving me feeling exposed and frustrated in front of my family. I texted her, asking for a serious conversation whenever she was ready. She replied hours later, saying she needed to think and felt suffocated. The next day, I found out she had posted a picture on social media from the party, making it seem like everything was fine. Mixed signals much. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop to discuss our relationship later that week. During the meeting, she accused me of trying to control her, and boom, another heated argument. She left in anger, saying she couldn't handle the pressure anymore. The following day, I got this message from her saying she needed time apart to think about what she wanted. A week later, she asked to meet again. It led to a tense yet hopeful discussion about our future. She didn't want to break up, but she just needed space to think. So, here I am, still trying to figure out what the hell is going on with us, and just hoping that we can find a way to make things work. Am I the idiot for wanting my husband to actually be a parent instead of just pretending? My relationship, which has lasted 3 years with a 27-year-old man, is in desperate need of repair, and I don't know how to make it happen, but I'm tired of the trends. I feel like we go in circles of arguing and never fully making up because when there's a problem, it's always all my fault. Then, before repair happens, he just acts like there was never an issue and is suddenly saying, "I love you so much," and trying to get affection, while I'm left still stewing in the issue. This, I'm sure, makes him feel rejected when I don't reciprocate the affection, but I'm not going to pretend things are all good when they're not. I try to wait for a good time, like outside of an argument during a neutral time, to express my feelings about where I think our relationship needs work, but it ends up coming out in unhealthy ways when I feel my needs aren't being met, even when I specifically ask for what I need in the moment. I feel like I ask for the bare minimum things and don't get them, and it gets so frustrating. I hate feeling mean when it's just that I'm so over feeling alone when I'm supposed to have a partner. And it's of course gotten worse now that we have a newborn who is 1 month old, and I feel like I have to do everything myself. It feels like nearly every time I ask for help, it's an issue to receive it. We've had conversations before about what the current problem is, and he always sees it as me being the issue, telling me I need to look in the mirror. I feel like I'm pretty self-aware and emotionally mature, while he is quite the opposite. I've suggested therapy so we can learn healthy ways to communicate and create a stronger, more healthy overall relationship and environment. But he says, why would I talk to a stranger about my relationship? I can't see this relationship at this point going on for another year the way it is. I don't want to give up on it though. I want to create a happy home with him, but I don't know how to have this conversation and make actual change happen. That's why I wish we could go to therapy. I am angry inside, and I don't want it to become an angry, blaming conversation, but I want him to know how I feel and what I see could use change in our day-to-day interactions. Right now, I just want to tell him how selfish he acts and how annoying it is to deal with. But I'm sure that's not the best way to put it. Any advice? I'm not looking for just leave comments either. I want to work it out. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You can't work it out unless he's willing to. You need to face the reality that this current situation works fine for him. He doesn't have a problem. He actually has a perfect solution. Blame you for everything and refuse to make any effort. Go to therapy on your own. Get some support as you communicate to him the basic facts. The fact is, his behavior will lead to the end of this relationship. You can't fix this alone by changing just your choices. The consequences of his current choices are that you will need to leave him. Maybe not tomorrow, but sooner rather than later. He can change, or he can be single. It's unlikely he'll choose to change, but I don't think you have anything left to offer him but that truth. Comment 2. This is all the signs of a relationship that has no chance of becoming a healthy one. Unless each person is mature and can take responsibility for what they say and do, it's not going to improve. You cannot fix him, and he sees no issue, so your choices are clear. You stay and put up with it, leave, or find someone more mature and compatible. There is no third choice. Now, for the update. I'm back with an update on my relationship issues. So about a week after my last post, my boyfriend and I went to his parents' place for the weekend to celebrate his mom's birthday. Honestly, I just wanted to get away from our usual arguments for a couple of days, even if it meant spending time with his family. They actually know how to be supportive and loving, unlike my boyfriend sometimes. When we got there, his parents had prepared this huge dinner, and everyone was just so excited to be around the table. It felt nice, you know? Like, for a moment, I thought, maybe everything's gonna be all right. My boyfriend offered to take care of our daughter while I helped his mom in the kitchen. I was a little surprised that he wanted to be with the baby, but I didn't want to question it. So I went to the kitchen with his mom, and we started prepping the food. I mean, it's not like he did anything with the baby, but whatever. During dinner, the conversation shifted to parenting, and my boyfriend casually joked about how he doesn't need to help much because I'm a natural. I wanted to roll my eyes so hard. Like, seriously. His sister-in-law, who had a baby recently too, chimed in about how she needed help and support, and I was like, finally, someone gets it. But my boyfriend totally brushed off the conversation, insisting he has everything under control. Yeah, right. After dinner, we moved to the living room for cake, and his mom brought out these old family photos. You know, the ones that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside? Yeah, until the dad asked when they plan to have more kids. My boyfriend casually said, "We're just fine with one for now." Just fine? I mean, I'm not ready for another one anytime soon, but his tone just annoyed me. After cake, he suggested we take a walk with the baby. I was like, sure, whatever. At least it's something. While we were walking, he got a phone call and stepped away, leaving me to push the stroller by myself. Typical. When he came back, I tried to bring up the earlier conversation we had at dinner, hoping it would spark a real discussion. But no, he got all defensive, claiming I was overreacting and didn't understand his perspective. I mean, how could he say that when he doesn't even know what my perspective is? We ended up arguing quietly, trying not to disturb the family, but the tension was so thick. After a while, he stormed off to the guest room, leaving me feeling even more alone and frustrated. Later that night, I overheard him talking to his mom on the phone, just venting about our fight. How mature. The next morning, I found a note from him saying he went for a walk to clear his head. I mean, how many walks does he need? When we finally met up, I was talking to his mom, and he looked so annoyed. I could tell he thought I was venting about him, which I wasn't. The birthday celebration wrapped up, and I just felt like I was fighting a losing battle. On the drive home, he barely spoke, and the silence was so awkward. I decided to invite a family friend for a casual dinner to lighten the mood and hopefully reconnect with my boyfriend. During dinner, my friend shared a story about her own relationship struggles, and it really resonated with me. My boyfriend laughed at the story, and for a second, the tension seemed to ease as we bonded over shared experiences. But then, After dinner, I tried to bring up therapy again, and he was just so dismissive, saying we could handle things on our own. That's when the argument escalated. I brought up the importance of communication and growth, and he accused me of trying to change him. I felt like we were right back to square one, so I decided to take a break from the conversation and went to the nursery to check on our daughter. A few days later, he called and asked if we could meet halfway to talk. We met at this quiet coffee shop, and finally, he opened up about his fears of being a dad and feeling inadequate. I could see the struggle in his eyes, and it broke my heart. I suggested we both consider talking to someone together, and this time, he didn't shut me down. We agreed to look into couples therapy, and I felt this sense of hope that maybe we could work through everything. I don't know, guys. Things are still a work in progress, but at least we're trying, right? Edit. My boyfriend and I have started couples therapy, and it's been eye-opening. The therapist helped us communicate better, and my boyfriend opened up more than I expected. He admitted feeling overwhelmed and inadequate as a dad. We're both committed to working on our issues. The therapist also suggested individual sessions, which helped us grow personally. It's a long road, but we feel like we're finally on the right track. Thanks for all the support and advice in the comments. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.